As a DP, I get a lot of input on the crew that's coming onto set, and after 10 years I've noticed a trend that there's many times where the most talented person isn't the one that's getting hired. It's the crew that makes the day go smoother. So today I want to talk about conversations I've had with producers and directors, themes that I've seen that might help you get hired as well. If you're new here, my name is Keaton. I am a DP based in Oklahoma. I also developed this app called CineTemp, which I think is the quickest way to calculate the white balance of a location and the ND you need for a given scene. And the bonus of that is that there's no additional tools needed. It's just an app on your iOS device. Now let's dive right into section 1, which is going to be work ethic is greater than resume. Now to set this up, I think that work ethic is very important, and obviously skill is very important. They're both almost equally important, but what I would argue is that you do have to be very talented. Your skill is very, very important in this industry, but your work ethic is the multiplier behind that skill. For example, I'd much rather have an AC that hustles over an AC that might be slightly more talented on sharps, but is dragging a little bit. Now, what I mean by hustling is not working yourself into the ground or running around like a maniac, but someone that moves with purpose, someone that respects others' time, someone that is anticipating needs before they happen. Because what I've found is a lot of the times the people that stay booked and the people that stay working are the ones that work like they care for the people that hired them. All that being said, I've had a lot of conversations with producers and directors and other crew members, and it's all around this same general theme. And a lot of the times when we're hiring crew, we don't need the most talented person on that particular gig, or we don't need the fastest person on that set in that role. We just need somebody that cares about the project, cares about the time, and keeps set moving forward smoothly. Now let's move on to section 2, which is keep the main thing the main thing. And this is something that I think can get glazed over a lot of the times, and something that a lot of people don't talk enough about. But if you're hired for a specific role, you need to fill that specific role and work that specific role with a lot of dedication. Every role on set has a specific mission. If you're a gaffer, you're there for speed and quality of light. If you're a first AC, you're there to have the camera 110% ready and pull focus if needed. And if you're a grip, you're there to help shape light, rig, and do that safely. And if you're a production assistant, then you're there just to be general hands on set and keep the machine moving forward. Now, where I see a lot of people mess up, especially early on in the industry, is they give too many notes outside of their lane. The first and probably one of the examples that a lot of us in the industry have seen is an early or a green PA is on set and they start giving notes to the director or to the talent. Now that's a big no-no, obviously, and that's way too far outside of the lane. If you're a production assistant, stay inside of your lane and help be those general hands on set and keep the machine moving forward. Another note is if you're an AC and you also DP things on other gigs, you don't have to constantly remind the DP that you also DP things, because eventually that's going to wear on them and cause the morale of the shoot to feel a little bit different, like you're not grateful for the position that you're in. Now, of course, there's caveats and exceptions to every single guideline and rule that has ever existed, but as a general rule, you need to have a vibe check of the crew, figure out where your lane is, and then figure out how malleable that is to see if you need to make any suggestions. But overall, I think the general theme is that filmmaking is difficult, so you need to execute on your job that you were hired for at a high level. There's no reason to add side quests. Now let's move on to section 3, which is going to be about attitude, and I've titled it Attitude is Everything. Attitude is probably the number one thing that I've seen people get hired and fired for. Filmmaking is stressful. For example, the other day we had a shoot and we had 6 locations in one day. We were moving really fast, and on that specific shoot, the people that were hired were chosen because they had really good attitudes. Knowing this shoot had a lot of locations and going into it, knowing that we had to move fast, I needed people that had good attitudes and wouldn't bark at each other when things got stressful. Now, everybody on that crew was a high performer. The producer and I both agreed that we needed high performers with really good attitudes, but irregardless of number of locations or the stress of the day, I think what can kill a set is a few things that come down to attitudes. If you have a crew member that is backtalking or complaining or eye rolling, a lot of the times that can chip away at the crew's morale, and eventually other people start chiming in, and eventually the entire crew becomes bogged down, and that becomes a bad experience for not only the crew that are involved, but also the client. To follow that up, I've also seen crew members that have the too good for this mentality, where they feel like maybe they were hired in a role that was less than what they should have been hired in, or they feel like they wanted to be on a different set in a different role. A lot of times, again, that chips away at morale, and then it gets everything off of the rails. I think what makes people rise and gets people raises is gratefulness and good attitudes. Gratitude, calm under pressure, positivity, positivity that feels genuine, someone that makes the day feel lighter and not heavier, your vibe affects the entire crew and the clients can feel it as well. Let's move on to section 4, which is serve the project, not your ego. This one matters the higher that you climb in the industry. I've been pretty fortunate in my career to have a lot of really great crew members around me, especially gaffers, but I've heard some horror stories and I've seen a couple things that have kind of left an impact on me. For example, a great gaffer is not trying to show off all of their new lighting toys or their lighting knowledge. They're trying to help the DP execute the story. A great AC is not trying to be the DP. They're trying to keep the DP sharper, faster, and allow the DP to be creative. The people that I've seen go really far in this industry understand the general mindset that this isn't your project, this is our project. When you prioritize the project over being impressive, eventually you become essential to production. Now let's move on to section 5, which is going to be enjoy being on set. This is something that I think a lot of us early on in the industry have, and some people later on in the industry forget or they lose. But it's something that I think is important. You either love being on set or you don't. I don't think that it's something that you can teach. In my head, I've got these theoretical buckets of different memories, and in the bucket of best crew memories are the ones where we're laughing with each other, we're supporting each other, we're keeping set lighthearted and fun and moving forward, and that eventually rubs off on the client as well. Because if you keep set enjoyable, you end up becoming a very easy choice for the next gig. Now let's move on to section 6, which is yes, talent matters. This is closing the loop from earlier where we talked about attitude and talent. But now I want to talk about talent because talent is very important. Now, of course, all attitude and no ability won't cut it. So let's go through a few things that I'm looking for on different crew roles. For gaffers, a lot of times I'm looking for someone that has as much or more experience than me when lighting. They're able to light fast, they're able to make quick decisions, and they're able to direct and command the crew when needed. The gaffer should be able to understand the story and the mood that the director and I are seeking, and they should also be able to solve problems before we even ask. Now let's move on to first AC. Is someone that can pull confidently. They should keep the camera or cameras at 100% readiness, anticipate lens changes or build changes, and then be able to communicate clearly. Now let's move on to grips, which typically falls underneath the gaffer role, but if for whatever reason it lands on my plate, these are the things that I look for. They should understand lighting fundamentals, know the basic lingo and language that we use on set. I would love for them to have rigging experience and also have safety first mindset, and then be confident. Now for PAs, this comes back down to a little bit more of a personality driven thing, but they should be fast, respectful, adaptable, eager to learn, and they should not have any pride. I think a good general rule of thumb is that your talent is what gets you noticed for the first time, but your mindset and your attitude is what gets you rehired. If you want to get hired in this industry, it's not just about your talent, it's about how you show up, your attitude, your awareness, and your willingness to keep the main thing the main thing. So no matter if you're a PA or a gaffer, show up with positivity, humility, and hustle. That's who I hire, and that's who stays busy. My name's Keaton and I'm sharing my journey and what I've learned along the way. If you enjoyed this video and want to continue growing together, consider subscribing. This is just the beginning of the conversation.